What is happening, guys? Thank you for tuning into Rules for Rebels, and we have what I think is a pretty interesting topic for a video today, and I think this might be helpful to a lot of you guys, especially those of you guys out there who, like me, maybe you're an introvert. So I got an email from David, and David said, how do you force yourself out of your shell when it comes time for a client interaction? And he goes on to say, I'm an introvert who started a home improvement business. It works well because I like working with my hands and perfecting what I essentially see as functional art. However, I absolutely hate having to talk to clients. I hate having to go to their homes and look at the work they need done with them, since I usually have to go in my head while I look at what needs repairing and remodeling. I hate calling them back with quotes and having to sell them on hiring me. I know other handymen who are insanely extroverted who have no issues getting people to hire them because they're so likable. I simply like to do the work. I've considered just working for somebody else, but the difference in pay is so ridiculously substantial I can't justify working for hourly anymore. I'm in my early 20s. Do you have this issue? And if so, how do you work around it? So I think this is a really common issue. I think there's a lot of introverted entrepreneurs. I think a lot of what makes somebody good at entrepreneurship is that people are in their head and thinking about things and solving problems. And while there are extroverted entrepreneurs, and while that is a very valuable skill, I think a lot of us who are entrepreneurs are introverted. And this is something that I can relate to as well. So I remember a few years back, my e-commerce business was all online. You know, we took PayPal and credit cards. Rarely, if ever, did I deal with anyone, and if I did, it was through email. Well, at some point, me and my business partner got an 800 number, and I remember at first it was kind of weird having people call me and having to take calls. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, and then something I used to hate was on Monday mornings, you know, because we've been out of the office Friday and Saturday. Monday mornings, I'd have to go into the office and return all the voicemails, and then also people who didn't even leave a voicemail, but I just, you know, with my 800 number, I used Freedom Voice, it's a company owned by GoDaddy. With my 100 number, I can see missed calls, so I would call them back too, and I'd say, hey, you know, this is John with, you know, XYZ company. Notice you called over the weekend, just following back up with you. And it was really kind of outside of my comfort zone. I used to dread Mondays for that exact same reason. And, you know, here, fast forward a couple years later, it's no big deal. I do it all the time. It's maybe not my favorite thing to do, but, you know, I have no issues doing it whatsoever. So fortunately for your industry, man, your industry has terrible customer service. My business partner just recently moved. Finding a handyman to actually show up on time and do the job it's like pulling teeth. It's so hard. So many guys don't show up, and it's kind of like a running joke with people in the trades that, like, you don't know if they're going to show up, you don't know if they're not going to show up. And my business partner had a nightmare of a time trying to find contractors to do a few small, simple jobs. And heck, even this summer, man, recently there's been a couple times that I've wanted to hire people for things. And like just recently, I called the guy. He told me he'd be there Friday between 8 and 9. Friday, 8 to 9 comes. He never shows up. I say, you know, screw it. I wind up leaving, going to work. About 6, 7 o'clock that night, I get a call. Hey, this is Mike. I think you wanted me to do some work for you. I think you wanted a quote. Like, yeah, Mike, you were supposed to be here at 8 to 9 this morning. Oh, sorry. You know, stuff happens. You know, that's his response. So just the fact that you're an honest guy who's not going to scam people, and that you're actually going to show up on time and do the work that you say you're going to do, puts you ahead of 95% of other contractors out there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing I just wanted to mention, I think you're kind of confusing being introverted and being shy. Being introverted and being shy are two completely different things. So being introverted simply means where you draw your energy from. Now, introverts tend to draw their energy from being by themselves and spending time by themselves and things like that. It doesn't mean you can't have an interaction. It doesn't mean you can't be charming or charismatic or witty. It just means that's not how you draw your energy. So an extrovert at a party, you know, they're soaking up the energy of everybody around them. They like talking to people, and that's kind of where they draw their energy from. Whereas people like you and me, we go to a party, and not that we can't enjoy it, but after the party's over, it's like, I can't wait to get home and be by myself and read a book or watch some YouTube or whatever else. So it's simply where you draw your energy from. Being shy is something completely different. You know, there is some crossover, but being shy is completely different from being introverted. So I think you might be more shy than you are introverted. You know, I totally understand you're not going to love client interactions, but it really shouldn't be something that hinders you from running your business. So I think initially you're just going to have to suck it up and do it, right? Like, as with a lot of things in life, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get at it, and the more skilled you're going to become at it. Now, I'm sure when you first started doing like contracting and handyman work, I'm sure you weren't as good as you are today, but after a lot of practice, And after doing it a lot and having a lot of experience with it, you're comfortable with it, you know it like the back of your hand. And, you know, while being extroverted and talking to people may not ever be something you're awesome at, it is definitely something that you can get better at. Now, in terms of other, you know, extroverted handyman, like, yeah, having people skills is an important thing. A lot of times people hire the person as much so as they do buy the product or buy the service. People like to like who they do business with. So I think if you can improve that skill, it'll only help your business, but you don't need to be the most charismatic, outgoing guy ever. And I think another thing that'll make you more comfortable with this is kind of how you frame the interaction. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say I sent you up to a woman on the street to ask her out on a date or ask her to grab a cup of coffee. I imagine that would probably make you pretty nervous. Well, now imagine if I sent you up to a woman on the street to ask for directions somewhere. I'm sure that would be less stressful than asking somebody out for coffee, and it's because of kind of how you frame the interaction, right? One interaction has a purpose, and the other interaction is trying to get a date. Now, with what you're doing, you know, no one's asking you to go up to a woman in a bar. No one's asking you to start a conversation with a stranger on an elevator or have dinner with a stranger, right? Like, your interaction with these customers have a purpose. They want to get work done. They need to know how much it's going to cost, and they need to talk to you about what the actual job's going to be. Now, one thing I notice of a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, is even if you're very, or I should say introverts, one thing I notice about a lot of introverts, myself included, is if you're having a conversation about something that you're passionate about or knowledgeable about, a lot of introverts can go on and on and on and talk for hours and feel very comfortable with it because it's something right in their wheelhouse. Whereas, like, on the flip side, if me and my girlfriend went out with another couple, maybe a work girlfriend of hers, and she brought her husband, and here's this guy I don't know, and, like, what are we going to talk about, and what if the conversation, you know, goes dead and becomes awkward? Like, that's a much different interaction than me talking to somebody about my business. So I think how you frame this interaction in your head, realize that, like, you know, you're not starting a conversation with a stranger for no reason. These people want to hire you, and there's information that they need. You're good at what you do, you understand what you do, and you need to communicate that to the client. So I think how you frame this interaction in your head is going to kind of make you a lot more comfortable with it as well. But one other thing, you know, just start interacting with people more. I think as introverts, we tend to interact with people less just because it's, you know, not necessarily our preferred thing. And when you interact with people less, you get less experience, and therefore you're going to be less good at it and less comfortable. So I would, you know, encourage you to spend some more time with friends, interact with people more. You know, if you're going to get fast food, instead of going through the drive-thru where you have like zero interaction, go in and talk to the person at the counter and order something and ask them how their day is going. You know, if you see somebody on the street or in an elevator who has a t-shirt that you think is cool or something, hey, I like your shirt. Just start striking up these little conversations. And you're going to realize nothing bad happens. It's not super scary. And actually, you may actually find that you kind of enjoy kind of making these connections with people. But yeah, main thing is, you know, realize, kind of think about whether you're introverted or shy. One thing I'd also encourage you to do, there's a website called 16 Personalities, and you can take a personality test. And it's amazing how spot on these things are. I took one a while back, and it turns out I'm an INFP. And it's just kind of really kind of cool to kind of see yourself described almost perfectly just based on like some 100-question test, and also kind of helps you understand why you are the way you are. So just for example, you know, with me, I've always struggled with like sales and things like that, and especially like sales working for other people. And I always kind of thought, well, you know, maybe I just kind of suck at sales, or that's not my thing, or I'm an introvert. And after taking this test, I realized that my personality type has kind of an altruistic element of it. So basically, I can't sell something that I don't believe in. I can't sell something that I don't think is good for the customer. And a lot of the sales jobs I've had, or a lot of jobs I had where we had to upsell people on something, like the upsell was a ripoff, or it didn't make sense, or it was stupid. And, you know, it's not necessarily that I'm terrible at selling. It's that I can't sell something that I don't believe in. And that's kind of my personality type. So I think that kind of really helps to kind of understand yourself a little bit better, why you are the way you are, and I think that might make you a little bit better at this as well. But yeah, keep in mind, these people are hiring you for a job. You're not just going over to coffee to chat with them. There's a purpose for the conversation, and it should make you a lot more comfortable with it. So any of you guys out there who are introverts and entrepreneurs, do you have any other tips on how to be more comfortable with client interactions, how to get out of your shell? I'd love to hear them, and I'm sure Dave, as well as your other fellow entrepreneurs and introverts, would love to hear them as well. So drop a comment below, let us know what works for you, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.